This is Gary Richard Arnold. We're standing in front of the Panetta Institute. Leon Panetta now heads the CIA. It is responsible for the MITRE, or the Evergreen International Aviation, that's dropping the chemtrails throughout the United States and Europe. There's no way these airplanes can fly over these courses and the country without the permission of the CIA, because they're involved with borders, of course, Homeland Security, and the FAA. There's one organization that oversees all of that, and it's called MITRE, M-I-T-R-E. And it's headed by another member, a former member of the CIA, and that's James Schlesinger. This has to be understood by the people. The organization on Harvard University is called the Belfer Center. That is headed by John P. Holdren. John P. Holdren wrote the book Ecoscience, in which he advocates sterilants and even implants into women before they reach puberty. And it would be a requirement, according to his book Ecoscience, that they get government permission. He says permission is possible, not particularly to be expected. And that's how thorough these people that want to control behavior, your behavior scientifically. And if you look at the book Agenda 21, it says they want to control every thought, every action, every human action that you commit. Leon Panetta, in his own autobiography, talks about his advancement. He used to work actually here at Fort Ord, and he worked for an intelligence group for the Army. I don't know if that was the time he was recruited or if he was picked up later by the Rockefeller forces. He worked also as the assistant to Senator Thomas Kuchel. At the time, years ago, when Richard Nixon was brought in to be the vice president for Eisenhower, it left a vacancy as the U.S. Senate in the state of California. Earl Warren was the governor. Yep, that's that same Earl Warren that had the commission to cover up the killing of John F. Kennedy. When Earl Warren was governor, he appointed Senator Kuchel to be United States Senate, and that is who Leon Panetta had worked for. And we have to recall that it was Prescott Bush, who was the United States Senator from Connecticut, came to California to find somebody to run against Jerry Voorhees, who was a congressman in Orange County. Jerry Voorhees was the congressman who wrote the book Beyond Victory, which exposed the Bank of International Settlements and the fact that the Axis powers held 72% of the post-planning banking arrangements for the creation of a united Europe. At that time, Prescott Bush came to California to find somebody to run against him. He selected Richard Nixon. So Richard Nixon was personally selected by Skull and Bones. And we have here some years later, as Richard Nixon is brought into the Eisenhower administration as vice president, left a vacancy in the state of California. Earl Warren was the governor. He selected Thomas Kuchel to be the United States Senator. And that is where Leon Panetta was lodged. According to Leon Panetta's own autobiography, he was assigned to the intelligence section at Fort Ord. And also further in his book, he mentions his stopping at Winthrop Rockefeller's mansion. And he was saying how important it was to have his endorsements or recommendations. So Leon Panetta has been under the wing of the Rockefeller family for a long time. In fact, he had worked under Nixon. He got a promotion or recommendations in order to get him into the White House, and he helped get Nixon out of the White House to prepare for Nelson Rockefeller's presidency. Leon Panetta had campaigned as early as 1964 for Nelson Rockefeller for the presidency. Some years later, in the 70s, he was in the Nixon White House, and he was working with Nelson Rockefeller, or the Rockefeller family, in order to make way for the Rockefeller presidency. It was once again in 1963 that JFK was murdered. Nelson Rockefeller, at that time, expected to be the Republican nominee and to be President of the United States. But because Barry Goldwater had won that nomination, took the nominating convention away from the planners and the king builders and the Bilderbergers, that Rockefeller didn't get his chance. So a decade later, the Rockefellers are working with Leon Panetta inside the White House in order to move Nixon out, which they did through the various scandals. And Bilderberger Gerald Ford was made president. Bilderberger Gerald Ford appointed Nelson Rockefeller, Leon Panetta's mentor or owner, or the person that was guiding his life, into the presidency. There were problems with Gerald Ford's forgiving Richard Nixon with his pardon that prevented Nelson Rockefeller from continuing on the ticket or running once again. But the whole move through this period of time, through that decade and a half, perhaps the murder of JFK, certainly the ouster of Richard Nixon, was all in preparation for installing Nelson Rockefeller as the President of the United States. That did fail, but Leon Panetta ever since has been working with the Council on Foreign Relations, with Averell Harriman. He attended Averell Harriman's wife's funeral. He is connected with the Institute for Policy Studies. Again, you go back and you'll find that there are skull and bones roots to that organization. He's been involved, his present seminars, the Leon Panetta Institute provides seminars periodically throughout the year. The next seminar includes James Jones, a member of the Bilderbergers, Chris Dodd. Half of the people that Leon Panetta brings to the community, where people clap like seals and think that they've been educated, are members of the Council on Foreign Relations. They're being manipulated while under their very nose, their cities are making contracts with the World Bank. Outfits like Blackstone are purchasing their power. The monopolistic PG&E is imposing smart meters that call and watch every single device they have in their house, is monitoring them. It's outrageous. The people are dumbed down. They're being put in a position of kill. This is the official book put out by the United Nations Agenda 21, and they tell you what kind of controls they want to have over your life, and I'll read to you verbatim. I changed my glasses here. For the far-reaching programs of Agenda 21 to be successful, a concern for the environment must be integrated into every human action, every personal decision. What we manufacture, what we buy, what we wear, how we travel, what we eat, who we choose as leaders. Every single human action has an impact on the environment and also upon the people. That is how thorough they are involved. And of course, many of the cities and the county of Santa Cruz has adopted Agenda 21 as their official policy. And it's not the people in the community that are making the policy. It is those that are running the world government and tightening the screws. These every city council, every board of supervisors within the Tri-County area here have been manipulated into adopting uniform laws in preparation for a North American Union. The congressman from this area is Sam Farr, who flew the United Nations flag at the congressional office in Washington, D.C. until it became an embarrassment and they took it down. He says in the cover page for the so-called local Agenda 21, it's not local at all, it's international imposition of world government. He says he intends to spread the Agenda 21 throughout the Tri-County area, which is Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito counties, encompassing this wider general area. They have moved to regionalization. They intend to supplant the local elected officials. The state of Michigan, about 60 days ago, adopted in both the lower and upper house, and it was signed by the governor, to appoint an emergency manager. Under any emergency, can appoint people to seize and sell assets, to fire elected officials, to abolish school districts and city councils. The dictatorship is ongoing, and it's happening in front of you. In Michigan, it was very clear. I don't know why the people accepted that, because they came right out and said it. In California, they're doing a piecemeal through Agenda 21, through contracts with ICLEI, and through a propaganda organization of Rockefeller's called California Forward, which was co-chaired by Leon Panetta. Again, he's inseparable from the Rockefeller banking establishment. So there's not any mistake whatsoever. Again, we have another autobiography. This is David Rockefeller, Memoirs. And he states, "Some believe we're a part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, conspiring with others around the world," Leon Panetta, "to build a more integrated global political economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it." They're doing it to you, and they're proud of it, and they're taking your freedom away by the day, and they're involved together with John P. Holdren and with their Malthusian ideas culling the population. And they're very active with the chemtrails. You'll find the assistance with the CIA, former CIA head James Schlesinger, with his MITRE organization that is permitting Evergreen International, which bought out Air America. And together with John P. Holdren's Belfer Center, with some of the same people involved, including Paul Volcker, former head of the Federal Reserve, including a Rothschild that owns stock in R.C. Russell, which is the largest aluminum company in the world, which is helpful when you're dropping aluminum particles to destroy the people. Once again, this is a handful of people. You're letting it happen to you. The people around here don't know because Bill and Melinda Gates, those Malthusians that want to curb the world's population, own all the newspapers in the area. The Packard Foundation controls most of the little volunteer organizations here that think they're doing good, whether it's saving our shores or doing something for the environment. They don't see the hook in the worm. While the worm might be a tasty treat, or they think they're doing something for the common good, they're doing everything to destroy the individuality and to create a world tyranny. Fusion centers are happening all throughout this particular area. They have exercises in which anybody that wears a gun, whether they're the campus police, whether they're highway patrol, whether they're the city police or the local sheriff, are engaged in working out programs, slowly moving them to a mindset that they are the product, or they are the controllers of them are the federal government and eventually a North American Union instead of your local police and local sheriff that used to look out for you. The Board of Supervisors voted 5-0 to turn criminal aliens back into the community instead of to ICE, back to their countries of origin. Why would they do that? Obviously, they don't get the votes of criminal aliens. Who is the lobby on something like this? They're dancing to a different tune. They're dancing to the tune of the international community, which is consolidating its control through North Africa and through the Middle East, generating a third world war. And locally, the revolution is going on here at their doorstep. It is a Bill Gates Foundation owned by Bilderberger, Bill and Melinda Gates, that are keeping people in the dark and promoting the confiscation of local lands, the local wealth, to the purses of themselves and their buddies. We're in Monterey Bay. This is the Fort Ord military reservation that's been converted partly to a campus, and this portion here has been donated to the Panetta Institute. This outfit here shares the Panetta building. It should be remembered that Leon Panetta was co-chairman of California Forward, which is a extension of Common Cause. Now, the people that put Common Cause together were, and I'm reading from the record, the money that came from IBM, Ford, Chase Manhattan Bank, the New York Times, Kuhn Loeb and Company, David Rockefeller, Lawrence Rockefeller, Martha Rockefeller, Stephen Rockefeller, Mr. and Mrs. John D. Rockefeller. Again, as David Rockefeller said, and certainly you can believe David Rockefeller in his own memoirs, said that he's accused of being in a secret cabal with other people to install a one-world government. He said if that's the charge, he stands guilty, and he's proud of it. I think they are. And if you intend to be a free man or woman, you need to do something about it now.